And here we have it. Hello, my beautiful people. It's your awesome creative kid, DJ, right here in the beautiful Deja Visions. You're watching another one of my classic, most exquisite shows of all. Today I have my awesome honey bunny, Miss Brass Rabbit, who is
Hi.
so awesome and cool. She's actually one of the most amazing people I got to meet actually through Facebook, and invited me to do an exhibition with her and also Charles Trow. We had John. We had so many, I mean, amazing artists for one of the exhibitions. That was really phenomenal. I could keep on bragging about that event. I'll talk about that later. It was just that overall, what made me get connected to her and also Chrissy. Shout out to Chrissy.
Shout out to Chris.
What made me just so connected to these young women? They were very just educated, educated way more than I ever imagined. And they love taking their time of just investing, not just into young folks or just to the elders, but also just investing to all different types of creators to really get their voice heard. But most importantly, Brass Rabbit has this beautiful mindset and eyes of looking into depths, especially when it comes to American economy in the world. We could all know the struggle of money, but with the beautiful eyes of Miss Brass Rabbit, she has her awesome way of illustrating and creating and using photography, her lens, to show her perspective of what is the situation in the world point of view of pretty much the problem of America that we all suffer from. So keep on elaborating and going and gossiping about it. But I think the people want to know who in the world is Brass the Rabbit?
God, you know what, DJ, I think that's a really good question. And I think that every day I am like working a little bit more to answer that question. I don't think that any person ever really like knows exactly who or like what you are. I think you're constantly changing and evolving. But you know, specifically within myself, a lot of my work is just me looking at the world and attempting to understand, like, what am I confused about? What do I want to say? What do I not have a handle on? And what am I noticing the little discrepancies that other people are having, maybe the same questions or similar problems. So I guess that that's who I am, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to necessarily answer that question, but maybe my work would be able to answer that question a bit better if you
There
see
you
what
go.
yeah.
Yeah, don't blame me. Oh yeah, by the way, we are having a little bit of some technical difficulties. I do want to warn everybody. So if it comes off where we're like pausing and dozing and whatever, just pray for us and keep us in prayer that things go smooth.
Oh,
But oh,
I'll
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. No,
So
you go ahead.
something I was going to say though, about myself, I am a Trenton-based fine art and documentary photographer. One of the
Yes.
reasons why the Wi-Fi is not working too well, as me and TJ were just discussing. So that is something I can definitively say about myself. Yes, yeah, I am
Yes.
in Trenton as we speak.
You need to improve your Wi-Fi.
Please.
So we're gonna go into Greps. Number one, I know I could describe a finance. I said finance, a fine arts documentary photographer. But for people, can you go a little bit in depth of what that actually means to some folks? I mean, because when they think of photographer, they just think of pictures and such. But go into depths of why you consider yourself into this field.
Sure. So I have two veins of the work that I create. I create fine art photography, which is a very fancy way of saying I essentially take pictures of things in a meaningful way. My work in that setting is very stylistic. I'm not just a photographer. I also use collage, and I use digital manipulation as well, which is basically using Photoshop to break things into extremely tiny pieces and then painstakingly rearrange them. Um, a lot of my work within that realm is very uncomfortable. The word gruesome has been thrown around quite a lot. It's pretty graphic. It is purposefully very reactionary. It's meant to create a reaction in whoever is seeing it, and it is meant to be very poppy and eye-catching. So there's that, which is the fine art stuff that I do. It's confusing, it's weird, it's bright colored. There's lots of weird textures in it. And then the documentary photography is a completely different thing. The only similarity is that it is still photography, kind of. Essentially, within the documentary realm of my work, I literally follow people around in their lives, and I take pictures of them while they do something. I actively attempt in all of my work to carry as little bias as possible. So when I work with someone for a specific project or a theme or an analysis of something, as you mentioned, I work with the theme of economics quite a good deal. I attempt to shoot every person with no expectation at all. I'm literally there to obtain information as to what you do, and then my goal is to relay that to individuals who would have no idea and who have known nothing about that person's life. So there's the fine art, which is like weird, and there's balloons, and there's like foam insulation, and then there's the documentary where there's a lot of numbers and some graphs, and there's people just doing things in their life, and you're supposed to learn things from that.
Yeah. It's just so cool how you really just combine it. It's almost as if it's a surrealistic to realistic thing.
Yeah. Two opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. And it's so cool how you just balance them out and blend them together. Definitely get us into the grips of how you actually capture your inspiration through the lens, and also what motivates you through just wanting to be in there, like be in that moment, especially when you plan to not have a plan. What keeps you driven in that?
Oh God. So actually, this is a good question, because I'm really grappling with this right now. Specifically within the documentary side, a lot of my work is really, really hard. I spend years making the series that I make, and it's not easy at all. And I'm actually at a really fun little wall right now, where I'm trying to get over it. And so when you ask me about motivation, like I am actively working through this right now. I really think my motivation is a little bit just out of like frustration, out of anger. When I see people on Facebook complain or just make comments about something, or I see signs from rallies, or I see the news, or I see anything on Instagram, or I see somebody in the street, like there are people constantly everywhere that you will always be able to disagree with. But I do think one of the things that really frustrates me is just the general reality of misunderstanding highly complicated things. That really bothers me. It bothers me to an extent where, like, I'm a relatively, like, what's the word I want? Maybe not controlled, but I'm a relatively poised person. I'm not a Facebook arguer. I'm not, I'm not really, I don't get really into that. But there's some times where I really want to, because it upsets me that just because something is really complicated doesn't necessarily mean that you can't understand it. And just because something is really complicated doesn't necessarily mean that it can be diced up into 1 or 3 words or a catchphrase or a sentence, and that you can understand the whole monotony of things that are involved in that reality and why that thing is. And that's really why, that's my inspiration. My inspiration is really based off of seeing things that are either kind of miscued or kind of incorrectly interpreted, and people are angry and they're upset, and there's lots of really great reasons for them to be. But I also think that, with more information and with more equal exchange between people, that we could cut out a lot of that really heavy and dense emotion. And we could get to a better life and a better world. So
that's very true, because I noticed that you not only just apply that with photography. You had moments where you had to do curating. You had moments where you had to, like, really research and study other people's works as well too. You really apply and adapt that also in your mind too, with multiple ranges of art. It's not just the lens, it's also outside of the lens. It's also part of your lifestyle, because I noticed, like you just said too, you're not a person of conflict. You're really not.
Yeah.
So you're the type, it was like, if you have a problem, you're gonna show it through your business and your work, and show like how I could resolve it through artistry and not just an argument.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that at the end of the day, as a creative person, that is one of the best things that I can do. That, and having like whatever day job I attain and I manage. I having rants over Instagram Live is not going to change necessarily anything. Like I don't personally believe that me arguing with every person that I disagree with at a party is going to be like my best attempt. And again, I really do think that, like, a lot of my work, and we'll probably get back to this, a lot of my work, the theme of my work is not me, it's not my opinions. The theme in my work is providing a platform for other people to speak and to have their voices heard. That is like, I'm like a conduit, kind of. Like, nobody should really pay attention to me, don't care about me. I want to work to bring voices and stories to large groups of people who would have never heard that before. That's what I'm really interested in. So that's why I don't fight with people on Facebook. I don't get into stuff at parties, because I just got to drag the guy from over there over here, and then that's what I want to do. I don't want to be involved in anything.
Well, let's go ahead a little bit into the grips of one of your projects as well. We're going to go onto your website to start off, to make it a little bit kind of cool, because I love your portfolio, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I'm very jelly of it. So
really?
But I'm just dressing with you, but I really do. I love and I admire your works in general. Your portfolio is just really awesome. We had the digital manipulation, which was one of the works you were talking about, and the pure photography. We also have a nice digital collage and American sleep paralysis. Ooh. I wanted to go on to the awesome visual manipulation, if you didn't mind.
No, sure, go ahead. Yeah.
One of my favorites is actually right here in front of us, but it's really, really just amazing how you really go into depth. There we go. With these works, especially, you definitely have to give us a good detail and grip about how you worked on this project.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, so this is kind of just like a growing collection of things, I guess. This is the work that I make when I am so fed up with attempting to make the more complicated documentary work. A lot of these, I actually, when I make these pieces, it's very strange. I kind of have like these very weird, like, I'll be standing around like folding laundry, and then all of a sudden I'll have this interesting image that just pops in my head, and it'll kind of like bother me. And this used to happen to me quite a lot when I was younger, and I didn't know where to put it. I didn't know how to transmute it into something. And actually, this collection of work is all like, I mean, it's not old, but it's all been made pretty recently. But some of it, like this piece with the woman sanding her face, that's like 8 years old, I think. Like that concept is pretty old. So I get these weird little, like, just sort of like stories or images that pop into my head, and then I draw them on whatever is available to me. And I have these like little pieces of paper all over my house, of like things like that, and like just little sketches that are very quick, that I have to kind of get out. And then it takes me normally a pretty long time to make them. I think this piece, I actually shot this in 2019 and then finished it in 2020. That piece took like 3 years to make, and I just revamped it for another show. I actually made that in quarantine, if you can't tell. So, but a lot of these, like for example, this piece right here with the gentleman in blue, that was both sculptural and a lot, like months of editing. So I just sit and I stare at my computer and I'm slowly giving myself some pretty strong carpal tunnel, hairline fracture editing these. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell because once again, that takes a lot of time with just in general of getting into the grips of the whole photography. By the way, when it comes to photography, it is completely different from videography. Photography is focusing on the still and the not having the movement, or trying to figure a way to stay still but capture that movement as well. The beauty about photography is that it does give you a whole illustration without movement. It gives you a whole story without even having to have description or words towards it. And what you do, which is so brilliant and mindful, and I'm going to tell you one thing: your work is really necessary, because seriously, you vividly go right to the T, and I instantly know exactly what you're talking about. It may be a whole another perspective, but the message is so concrete and clear and gruesome. But reality, it's reality, and we need reality type artists. And especially even in your pure photography, we do see the same methods being used. Definitely give us a tour on your pure photography.
Say that last part again.
Oh, did you hear me? I said, give us a nice, good, tour on your pure photography side.
Yeah. So a lot of these, again, they are. This is a mix of staged and unstaged work. So like that's a staged piece. That was one of the ones that I had just like pop in my head. I think it's written on a Post-it somewhere. That is unstaged though. That's a little bit better, like kind of a better example almost of like documentary photography, as is this style of work where you are there and you capture what happens. There is no pre-planning. But I mean, I mainly have sort of this little collection of work, again, some of which is very tongue-in-cheek, like this piece, shockingly expensive to make, and then pieces like this, but I think this is actually an interesting topic in and of itself for photographers who are out there. The reality of attempting to segment and categorize your portfolio, your body of work, is so difficult. And I think that you can really see this in a lot of photographers where you're like, this isn't a beautiful image. I don't really know where to put this. But, so I think that this kind of little category, I have decided to call it pure photography because it is my kind of more conceptual pieces that I still would just consider to be fine art. And much so less on the documentary perspective, because there's not really as much of a purpose to some of these as the ones that are, premeditated, or like pre-planned. But I think that as a photographer and as an artist, sometimes over categorizing your work is not the best, and it can be a little bit of a trap, because then you fall into this pit of, what is this? I can't put this here, and then you end up not being able to display a piece that really encapsulates something. So so that's a story on that. it's still growing and changing.
The whole thing of it is that get yourself out of the box.
Yes! Thank you for taking that away from that. Yeah.
There you go. It's all about getting yourself out of that box. If you are an artist, just in general, this is PSA to all forms of artists. I don't care if it's a pen, a pencil, or if it's paint, or if it's multiple clays, or even if it's a video camera, or photography type camera. I don't even care, even if it's a calculator and you get creative with numbers. You are an artist. Get this clear. What Brass Rabbit is teaching you in this time period right now, use your natural born skills, your intuition especially,
Yeah.
and say it is way more than what I box it to be. And that's what's really, really just so important about we need artists like you in this world, because you show us and teach us literally. It may look like, oh, well, it's just simple, or it just may have some complexity. But what's really, really amazing is that you take and grasp and say, no, this is how I take control of my own works. I want to show the people you have a video which is really kind of cool too, going in and showing the little bit of the behind scenes. I want to show people that little video clip, because it's a lot. To us, we just look at it as like, oh, it's just this one thing, but you got a lot of like work and background in the behind the scenes, that the time lapse of it all. We're gonna look at the one of when you did the claymation on the man's back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that piece is called Tar.
Yeah, we're gonna look at that piece. I want to show the folks that real quick. Here we go. Alrighty. Hopefully they can see that. Boom. Alright, let's go. Alrighties. That is something. And that's only a time lapse. And how long did it take you while just being in the set? How long did it take you?
That was actually like the worst day of my life. I installed an exhibit that I had curated for like 10 hours at BSB. By the time that we were done, my model came, a friend of mine named Juan. My model came. He was helping us finish install. That's how like late it was. It was like 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock we start shooting. We were done by 3 a.m. So there's that. But that shoot had been like scheduled and canceled and scheduled and canceled and scheduled and canceled. And it was really just one of those where I was just like pulling out my eyebrows, like, this is gonna happen. Like, oh man. And then it took me like a year to edit. So
yeah.
But it's done now. That piece is actually in a exhibit at the hosted by Vacant Museum right now, which is super cool, and you should totally check that out. Yeah, they're great.
Oh, there we go. I just really, I didn't do that video, and it's seeing the time. I was like, yeah, that had to be a whole process, especially him like having to like hover that long period of time. Shout out to that guy.
Yeah, no, I really do. I have the best friends. They're so patient with me, and they're so willing to be like uncomfortable at late night things. So yeah. Shout out to the homies.
For real. And then I wanted to show people one more of your works as well. Let me show them the other one. That was the one with the tissue.
Oh well, I gotta say that's my wonderful friend Andrew. And I actually got the idea for this piece while I was talking to him. And I told him that he had to basically, like, I needed him to model for this, and he was just completely ready and happy to be a part of it.
So here is the timeline of this video as well. Oh, he's so adorable.
I know, he's wonderful.
Tell me what would you do? How far will you go? I don't mind being Tell me what would you do if you ever found that proof to lose it all in search of the truth? How far will you go? Tell me the price on the soul. Are you traded for a room full of gold? Yeah, we all choose right. But it's people that put meaning in your life. Same people might bring you to the fight for the right price. Choose right, cause we all get her done due time. Right, true life. Tell me what's your price? All in, no dice. Oh, it's in your eyes. Lie like lovers under stars, under covers. On my mind, time. I be lying if I ain't loving, but I got the tendency.
Oh God.
How do you feel just rewatching that? What are you reliving in that?
That makes me so happy. That was I tried him too. Yeah. That one took a long time. And it was also one of those things where I was just like, I don't know how this is going to work. And it's funny, everybody actually thinks that's toilet paper, but it's actually receipt paper. I bought.
Really? I thought it was toilet paper too.
Yeah, I bought like 3 cases of receipt paper from Staples. And I didn't know how I was going to make, like, how do you make receipt paper circle around somebody? So it was a, can you stand still for an hour and a half while I wrap you in paper? That was, yeah, I owe him a fruit basket. Yeah, like I owe all these people fruit baskets.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And it's so, especially that particular piece, that's so relevant. Even right now, you can look at that right now in 2020, especially with the whole pandemic going on. I mean, toilet paper. That's why I automatically thought it was toilet paper, because when I first saw the piece, just looking at your portfolio once again, I saw that instantly, and just my mind just went to, oh my goodness, pandemic toilet paper. Like, yo, he's like, not as much toilet paper. That was just my brain. But this was an older piece, and you named it White Words.
White Words.
So tell us why you titled it that.
I would love to tell you about that, because everybody thinks it's toilet paper, which I don't mind. It's like art is what you make of it. You know what you of it. So at the time, myself and my wonderful friend Andrew, who you saw standing so still in that, we both worked in a grocery store. That's how I met Andrew. I'm getting coffee with him on Sunday. So he's really one of my close friends, and we were talking, and working in this grocery store, I was constantly challenged by like older white men, and I was constantly being like sexualized by old white men, and I was constantly being stared at by old white men while their wives were standing like right next to them, and they would constantly tell me that I was wrong about questions that they asked me, and I was just getting really tired of this. I was getting really tired of it. I felt like, working in the service industry, just to begin with, is one thing, but I especially think as a woman, it's a whole other kind of ball game. And people do kind of show their social biases quite apparently, like obviously when they're running errands. So I was experiencing a lot of that, and I was getting really fed up. And I was talking to him one day about a particularly audacious customer that I had. And I just kind of had this image in my head of just like this man vomiting like white receipt paper, as if this concept that, you are so full of like information and words that they spew out of you and around and under you and circle between your feet, and you can't do anything with them, and they say nothing. That idea of it, like, what you are giving is meaningless. I was angry, if you can't tell. So I was fed up, and that kind of popped in my head, and I was just like, you're white, like, this is great, do this with me. And he's so wonderful, and I'm sure that he heard what I was saying and was just like, yeah, sure, you seem very upset. So yeah, I made that, and everybody thinks it's toilet paper, but the title, I did try to kind of make it a little bit more obvious, but I'm really glad you asked me the meaning of that, because set the record straight.
I know that's right. This brass rabbit, it just enticed me, and I get excited every single time I hear like you're doing some new projects, you working on some new stuff, you keep yourself innovative, cultivated, you just about the evolution about every single form. And what excites me is that anytime I contact you, I'm just, or even just seeing on your Facebook or your Instagram, seeing something like just gonna blow my mind away. Um, Brass, you are just a true beast in the photography. If anybody didn't tell you, I would tell you. And I'll speak for them too. You are a true beast in the whole industry of photography. It's just the way that you really grasp and use your anger and use your, your whole energy. For some people, especially like I just grasp in the moment, but you keep yourself in this beautiful composure, and then you said, okay, you know what, I'm going to make something out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Enlightenment to the behavior that I don't tolerate. And for some people, once again, we were talking about this earlier, that it takes maturity to come to a level of saying, no, business is business and personal is personal. And that's what I learned from you. Oh yeah, once again, please forgive if you hearing the clicky type noises, only because of the technical difficulties. Please be aware. But we are old school. But once again, I just really truly appreciate all that you continue to do for success and your whole business of why your voice truly matters. As a matter of fact, I would love here the last true question. What and why, or even how, do you change the world with your beautiful fine art documentary photography?
That's a great question. And I think it's really important for artists to be asking themselves that, on a routine basis. How do I change the world? Well, I don't know. But my goal, I would say, like my goal really is just to foster, I guess, connection. My goal is to pull people from opposite sides of the spectrum and be able to say, this is what this person thinks and this is what this person thinks, and here is a complete, honest explanation and kind of window into this person's experience. And my goal is to allow both of those people to walk away. I say this a lot. I write on the side too, and I have a poem that ends with really all that I want is for people to think more often of the groups that they don't belong to. And that's kind of like the goal of all of my work is sort of just to expose and to explain something that somebody would have never been able to know, essentially. And that, be it through why maybe somebody breaks the law to do something, or why someone is just like constantly angry and mean, or why that girl in the supermarket was rude to you because you asked her a question and then you said something that was just like fine, like my goal, my goal is to bridge those gaps. That's what I want to do. And I want to do that kind of in any way that I think I can help. A big part of that is finding the right people and the right people who want to have open conversations, which is very difficult. That generally is my goal. Like if I can showcase someone's life and the somewhat, explain something that someone previously didn't understand and didn't know, then like that's cool. Like I can go home and sit around.
There you go, Miss Brass Rabbit. Let's go, Rabbit, my beautiful, lovely honey bunny. I really do. I really enjoy. Please, definitely, if you guys, you guys have an Instagram, definitely follow her. You'll see a lot of her, and a lot of people of her collabs And you'll see her models, you'll just see every single part of her.
You'll see it.
Also, too, you can see her website right over here. You can click the link, go straight to her portfolio as well. You'll see the events she hosts, curate, exhibits, etc. As you can see, she promoted me in her events. It's just really, really just phenomenal. You get to have a really awesome, surreal, timeless moment and collabs as well. I mean, it's just endless. It really is. And by the way, definitely just shout out to not just her, but also the models, the people that she had included into her project. Once again, they were artists as well too. We got to shout them out for even participating into her project. Because once again, it's been harder finding models who have the time.
Yes.
But once again, I just thank you so much. Mr. Rábbit, you definitely have a huge place in my heart too, because you got you and Chrissy, and I tell it all the time, but I gotta say it again. Make sure I got the right angle. She's part of the reason I started my journey right here. This woman right here, and I'm gonna be showing Chrissy's too. But I gotta send my flowers to her, Chrissy, because especially on Brass Rábbit, she took the time, she educated me. She was my first show since I graduated from college. I didn't know. I told him straight up. I even called her. You can recall this one too. I said, look, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. I don't know how to get this stuff. I don't know how to do art statement. I don't know how to do none of this. But I got work that needs to be done. And you two really did take the time. You really just took the moment to really even see what I had, and you just cultivated and improved it, and actually gave me confidence that I couldn't even find within myself. And you guys just made my work feel so loved and protected, just as equally as yours. So when I got to be in your art gallery and really just present, it was just really just, oh my goodness, I'm about to start crying. Lord have mercy. But it was just my beginning. It was just my true beginning of what I really needed. And then it eventually branched off to now where I'm actually sending my flowers to you. And I'm just so thankful and grateful that I had you, and as well as Chris, who blessed me into the facility. Once again, I apologize for the loss of the BSB Art Gallery, but I'm just so grateful and thankful to see that just because that door closed, you were taking the time to build a whole new one. And now you are even blessed to even have the opportunity that you are currently having, which is phenomenal. And she don't even have a degree, which is killer crazy. This woman doesn't have a degree in photography or business or anything. And she's just killing it.
Thank you.
So it goes to show you there's no excuse. Just do what you gotta freaking do.
Yeah, just start figuring it out now. Yeah. Just start. I'll meet you at the wall. In a couple of weeks. Maybe we'll stand there both.
So I just thank you. I thank you for seeing and investing just even the time with artists that are no different, literally with the same exact goal as you, and just really branching that all. But once again, definitely shout out to the lovely Brass Rábbit for coming on to the show. And we wish you many great more moments. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys.
There.
DJ.
See you guys next time.
Bye.